can you be a Seventh-day Adventist nudist? Recently, I've bought several nudist magazines from the 1940s to answer that question, and you can imagine the conversations I've had with my wife over this video. Well, tucked into one of these issues is an article by a man writing under a pseudonym, Harry A. Loring, and he begins his article with this incredible claim. I certainly am both a nudist and a Seventh-day Adventist in good standing. Now, Loring claims to have been a theology student who happened upon a nudist magazine in a bus station. So he bought a copy of this magazine, Sunshine and Health. Sunshine and Health may sound like a very cheerful magazine devoted to being outdoors, but many nudist groups then, as now, often obliquely refer to themselves as lovers of sunshine. Harry Loring called it social sunbathing, and this association of nudism with sunshine was one of the main selling points. By the early 1930s, and this is when nudism was really taking off in America, and I guess I mean that literally, there was a recognition that the Industrial Revolution, which had sent thousands of people into factories and mines all day long, they were getting rickets due to a vitamin D deficiency. And while sunlight is a huge natural source of vitamin D, it neither penetrates the roofs of factories or caves or your clothes. And so if you want to get vitamin D, take off your clothes. If nudists saw themselves as health reformers, which they did, they also saw themselves as educators. Loring makes this comment that sex education was so poor in the Seventh-day Adventist Church that his wife got married thinking that you could get pregnant by kissing. And so nudism was a way of educating, of demystifying human sexuality. There's a perception of nudists as libertines, as antisocial miscreants or utopianists. But Harry Loring came to believe that the church and the sunshine nudists were both fighting for moral purity. Walking around naked without shame was about being healthy and embracing the body that God has given them. It was about living in their own Garden of Eden. Loring managed to persuade his wife to visit a nudist camp with him, where they happened to meet another Adventist. Together, they tried to sort out what Ellen White might say about all of this. They believed Ellen White would support this practice because she taught that sunshine, fresh air, and water were some of the best medicines. And if you really want to follow the Adventist health message, you have to take your clothes off. I can't wait to hear a sermon about that. Now, Loring closes his article with a really bold claim. Nudism, in some cases, is even an essential for salvation. In fact, Harry Loring believed that the Bible supported nudism. Here's a fun argument he made. If God insisted that his people be circumcised, there had to be a way to check, right? This is how he puts it. This is proof enough for me that men went nude enough to have their sex organs open to public gaze. Now, that's definitely an argument that somebody could make. Naturally, Loring's article kicked a hornet's nest within the Seventh-day Adventist Church, especially when it became clear that there were somehow more than two Adventist nudists out there. People had enough prejudice against Adventists, and this whole Adventist nudist business threatened to make Adventists look ridiculous in polite society. Now you might be wondering how on earth the church found out about Harry Loring and his wife. After all, this wasn't his real name. He had taken care to subscribe to Sunshine and Health using a different address and name. So did the General Conference have nudist spies? No, it wasn't anything so dramatic. In fact, the Lorings apparently traveled to the nudist camp with another family who had left their kids at home, and those kids told their friends where mom and dad were. And of course, those friends told their mom and dad, who told the rest of the church. And you know how that works. According to Loring, he and his wife were somehow identified in their local church and scolded by an elder. They promised not to attend the nudist camp anymore, but they refused to condemn nudism itself. Things seemed to quiet down for a while, except Loring's article in Sunshine and Health was discovered by a patient who told his doctor about it. Now, this patient was not an Adventist, but he had his kids in an Adventist school, and the patient knew his doctor was an Adventist, and so he told his doctor that if Adventists were nudists, he was pulling his kids out of an Adventist school. Naturally, this reached the ears of the conference president, and on January 3rd, 1946, just a few weeks after Loring's article appeared, he was brought before 26 people and disfellowshipped. Now, 2 weeks after he was disfellowshipped, the editor of the Adventist Review, the flagship journal of the denomination, wrote to the editor of Sunshine and Health. Apparently, Francis D. Nichol had been asked by a number of Adventist members and pastors to correct Loring's claim that you can be a good Adventist and a nudist. Nickel wrote in no uncertain terms, "The idea is so fanciful, so far-fetched, so absolutely contrary to the whole spirit and genius of Seventh-day Adventism that I doubt if it would be more possible for anyone to tie together two ideas more mutually opposed than Seventh-day Adventism and nudism." When it came to Loring's use of Ellen White to defend nudism, Nickel was even more outraged. "I could think of nothing more calculated to make this dear, demure, and godly woman turn in her grave than the suggestion that she gave any countenance to nudism." Leroy Froom picked up his pen to agree. Quote, "The insinuation that Ministry of Healing," which is an Ellen White book, "endorses nudism is a libelous product of a diseased imagination. It is a black lie against the spotless white championship of purity, modesty, morality, and the accepted canons of decency adhered to undeviatingly in all Spirit of Prophecy writings from 1844 on to their close in 1915. We cannot allow such slimy charges or filthy insinuations as contained in that article to pass without instant challenge and denial." I don't know what Leroy Froom was thinking of when he was writing this, but I just picture him just with all the full outrage of an English gentleman, you know. "It is a black lie against the spotless white championship," you know, anyways, that sort of thing. You get the idea. But look, he did not equivocate, okay? Sunshine and Health did not take this lying down. Since Nickel insisted that his letter be printed in their magazine, they insisted that their response should be printed in the review. And since Nickel insisted that nudism was contrary to the church's teachings of modesty, Sunshine and Health asked whether Adventist girls are permitted to wear a conventional bathing suit. Nickel made it clear that the church had no intention of engaging in this debate. Seventh-day Adventists have no time for nudism or for the fanciful arguments set forth in behalf of it. If, because of this, nudists think us bigoted and narrow-minded, as writers in Sunshine and Health vigorously and repeatedly affirm, then we plead guilty and thank those writers for so labeling us. The more they thus denounce us, the more firmly they will support our contention that we have nothing to do with nudism in any shape, manner, or form. In fact, if they will but continue to denounce us, it will save us the necessity of having to say anything further in the days to come regarding this subject. Whew. Adventists apparently thought that all bad press is good press as far as nudist groups were concerned. There was no theological discussion, no possibility of agreement, no social niceties to even ask whether Ellen White's writing supported Adventist nudism was offensive. Still, the issue dogged Adventists for a little while. One nudist group apparently created an advertisement in Los Angeles for an Adventist nudist colony and named a local church pastor as a reference. That pastor was shocked, quickly published a notice saying he had absolutely nothing to do with this. No true Seventh-day Adventist will promote or frequent a colony of this nature. And he added that the liars claiming he was a part of this will be burned in the lake of fire in the judgment. Whew. Throughout Adventist history, we've had members who rejected the Trinity, who rejected the sanctuary in 1844, who rejected Ellen White and called her a fraud, but I don't think I have ever seen the church react so fast and so forcefully than when dealing with Adventist nudists. Well, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go work on my tan.